This meeting's called to order. Lee, will you call the roll, please?
Payola,
Here.
Jim,
Here.
Greg,
Here.
Lee here, Phil,
Here.
Mary Ann,
Here.
Ross.
Here.
Okay. So I call this meeting because I've been thinking a lot about the election.
Oh, he just froze up.
Of course.
And
Back.
Good pose.
and the annual meeting, trying to come up with some kind of idea on what to do.
Payola, we didn't hear anything after you said, I've been thinking a lot about it.
Cookies. Now you're muted, Payola.
I went out, right? I muted?
You're
Now I-
unmuted.
Okay. I moved it because the date of the annual meeting of the members is in question, and that matters surrounding the election are in question, that we not schedule an annual meeting or an election until the courts have decided whether or not the bylaws have been amended properly. The floor is open for debate.
Personally, I think that's an excellent idea because otherwise, no matter what we do, we're gonna be in trouble
Yeah.
because we're not doing it right.
Payola, do we have a motion in front of the judge asking for a decision on that?
Right at this moment, I mean, we've made the motion. So we'd have to ask that it be reconsidered. Or especially in light of some of the things we've discussed earlier to help them expedite the process.
Well, your earlier explanation was good. We don't know. We're waiting for the court to decide. I personally think that's a smart move, as does Greg. However, and I think that can be explained to the membership, but we do need to take whatever action is necessary with Revere and Associates to see if we can get expedited to a quicker decision. That's all.
I agree with that.
By the way, just separate
Any-
commentary with regard to the LCA deposition, and this all has to do with the election.
Okay,
If
that,
it
Jim.
has, it's the election
Jim.
comment.
call the order, Jim. Is the meeting, when we do a special meeting, we can only discuss those subjects that are called for the meeting.
That's
That's
what
only-
my comment is.
It's the only business we can.
That
Oh,
is,
it's about,
that is my comment. I only wanted to make a preface that it was brought up. If we do January, or if we say we're going to follow the bylaws from day one, then that requires that we do a January. That's my only comment. That's what it calls for.
okay.
And the
Any
window
other-
is short.
Comment from any of the other board men, other directors? Yeah. And so that's why I said we don't schedule it until we have a decision. And then no matter what he just, my feeling is no matter what he decides, then you schedule the election right after that decision.
So Keola, this is Phil Denny. Does that mean that the nominations are still due on or before the 1st of January?
I would say,
I think everything's postponed.
I would say it would be postponed because we're waiting for a decision.
I'm not sure we can postpone it. We have to decide one day or the other. I don't see how we.
Are you talking about the nomination or the election?
No, I'm
itself?
talking about the date of the election. I think the nomination's pretty much set as being on or before the 1st of January. The question I think that's before us is what date should the election be? If we're going to be consistent with the pleadings in the lawsuit, then we should go back and have it as the bylaws state. I think there's every reason to do exactly that. And while I understand it does make the nomination process fairly short and doesn't give much time for candidates to do their political stuff. But I think that's consistent with the bylaws. Now, if we want to decide to change the bylaws, then I'm all for that. I personally don't have any stake in when the election is, but I do think that this has to be resolved. And I think to be consistent with our position in the lawsuit, that it should be in January, and the nomination should be on or before the 1st, and we should have the election. I also think that the annual general meeting should be held then as well. I would entertain a motion to amend the bylaws to change those things, as long as we do it properly. As you know, we have to give notice to everyone. And we have to schedule a meeting where that only that subject can be discussed. I see no reason we can't just go ahead and just do that. So that's my take on it. Thank you.
I don't
Okay,
think that
thank you, Phil.
the defense shouldn't have any reason to object that I can see, no matter when it is, January or March. So just asking the judge to decide shouldn't have any issue with the defense coming up and to object for some obscure reason.
It's none of the defense's business.
That's what I'm
what we
saying
do.
too.
Yeah,
Exactly.
okay.
I think it is, though, because they're trying to introduce other stuff saying that the dates were changed appropriately, but we don't know that. That's all new evidence. I think it all should be put on hold till the court decides. And I think we should have Amanda and Terry let them know that we need a decision, because it's unclear as to who's correct. Whether it's January, whether it's March, when is it? If it's 2 years, 1 year, whatever, we need a decision.
But Ross, our position is it's incorrect, that the correct date is in January. Is that not our position?
That is, however, in the deposition, all of a sudden, they started throwing out all these other papers that they've come across that no one had ever seen. Is that
Well,
not
again, I think they should be ignored.
That's why I say it's very hard to say where the truth is and what's right.
One of the things Michelle brought up, or she produced a document that referred to 1971, changing it back to March. And it's been that way apparently for decades. Nevertheless, later in the day, she produced a document that was a motion from Alice Lindahl to change it to March. So it can't be both. It was either done properly in 71, or if they say it wasn't, then why'd they try to change it in 2019?
That's why I think the judge needs to say what it is. I think no matter what we do, and if we do something different and the judge comes up with something different, we're wrong. We need some clarity. It needs to be done correctly. And I think just holding off, because if we were to miss and it is determined that January was and is the proper one, it'll just be late this year because we didn't have proper notice. We didn't know which dates we were using. And I think that would be a fair reason for it being running late. Or if it's determined that the paperwork says was done correctly and we do it in March, we do it in March. But I think a decision needs to be made. Because no matter what we do without a decision, it's really good chance it's wrong.
Can't we go ahead with the nominations? Because on both the original and the amended bylaws that they did, don't both of them say nominations have to be in honor before the 1st of January?
Agreed, Greg.
Yes.
So if that's the case, we could at least go ahead with the nomination part and then wait for a decision on the judge as to when to have her.
I think that's a smart plan, frankly, because then we're kind of ahead of the game
Right.
instead of just totally behind, I guess. Yeah.
The only problem, the only thing I see with that is that we can't put anything about how long the term is,
What's the meeting power?
right?
Well,
If that's part of the question, then how can you decide what the term length is if that's still got to be decided by the courts? So I see where we could have a nominations, but just that would be left undone. It would still have to wait till the courts have decided.
Agreed.
Can we put on that nomination form that the term to be determined by the court?
Could be. We could do that if,
The only problem with that, Greg, is somebody may be willing to run for 1 year, but not 2 years. But I understand all the issues, and I think Keola is correct. It's yet, by the way, on Saturday or Sunday, I think Amanda said she can make a motion before the court to get an expedited decision. No guarantee, but I think that she could do that. We need to hustle that up, no matter what.
we could also on the people that are nominating and wanting to be considered for the next board, we could have them just state whether they're willing for 1 or 2 years or it didn't matter.
True.
And that
Good
way we
idea.
would know. Just an idea.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, Phil Denny here. I'd like to make a
Yes.
motion,
Yeah.
if I may.
well, we already have a motion on the table already. That hasn't been voted on.
I'm sorry, I must have missed that. Would you repeat the motion, please?
Yeah, the motion is, I move that because the date of the annual meeting of the members is in question and that matters surrounding the election are in question, that we not schedule an annual meeting or election until the courts have decided whether or not the bylaws were amended properly. That's the motion.
Does that mean that the present board stays constituted as is until this is resolved?
Yes.
That's correct. So that's why we hope to get this expedited.
Okay. In Greg's words, the natives are going to be restless, I think, about this. Again, to play the devil's advocate, this smacks of the board using its power to stay in office longer than they should.
Or it could be
I think
shorter.
we have to be very careful about this.
Be shorter?
Well, I don't know when it could happen, but depending on what the judge would rule, if it's as I believe, then it would go back to the old bylaws, which mean then you only have a year as a director.
Yes, I would be in favor of that.
So, but I still believe just because this is not an easy decision, that we ought to leave it up to the courts.
Cale, I would not be surprised if the court really doesn't want to address that. And it seems to me that as the, that we are the parties that should resolve this. And I think to be consistent with the pleadings in the lawsuit, we ought to just do away with anything that wasn't done properly, including the date of the election, the staggered terms, et cetera, as has been laid out.
And if we do that, then what happens if the judge finally wakes up and makes a decision and says, we go back to the old, then we're in trouble again?
Then we go back to the old.
Yeah, but if we're in the middle of doing it the other way, we're, no matter what we do, it's going to be wrong. That's why I think it's important, in my opinion, that the judge make the decision. The natives are going to be ticked off no matter what, so let them be ticked off at the judge.
Well, again, just my point, Greg, is that to be consistent with the pleadings, I think we ought to do away with all the bylaw changes that we claim have been done improperly. And we move forward, and if the judge does not agree with us, then he'll say so and we change it. But I think that's the good faith thing that we should do. And I suspect that the lovely Michelle is going to hammer away at that we've had this opportunity since March to fix these things that we have alleged to have been done improperly, and we haven't done it. And I think we have a prime opportunity right now to take care of that. So,
I think if the defendants would say that they did it incorrectly, this could all just go away and we could do it correctly. So I think it might be a little bit of pressure for them to just, all you have to do is say it was done wrong, and then we go back and we fix it correctly. But the problem with fixing it, it has to be done correctly.
right.
That's
I
been
agree.
the whole thing. So I don't see, maybe that would speed things up.
So, well, it just seems to me that in the meantime, until we are able to do it correctly, we ought to go back to the way it was and live with it. It's
Well,
not perfect.
I'm concerned with the paperwork that I saw at the deposition that had never been seen about
Yeah.
all the changes. I'd never seen that. That's been nowhere that anybody else ever saw it. So where did
Again,
that come from?
Yeah, the only thing I think that we can say for sure, at least, if we can say anything for sure, is that the original bylaws said the date of the election was in January. The original bylaws said that there were one-year terms. And, the way it's been done, even if it's been done for 50 years, it was not right, as we pointed out in the legal pleadings. So again, I think this is an opportunity to change that. And I would argue that we should not wait for the judge. And I would argue that we shouldn't pay any attention to what the defendants feel about it. It's none of their business.
If we go back to the January as the original bylaw state, I believe, but please correct me if I'm wrong, that if all we do is vote to go back to the original, that shouldn't require going to the membership to get approval. But if we
No.
change the date to anything else, then we can vote, but then we also have to have it approved by the membership.
Yes.
Sorry. My internet keeps going out.
Not to say that I'm in a rush to get off of the board.
For some reason. There any more on this
Not
matter?
that, Phil. So I'm in favor of however soon that can be done.
Okay.
I just want to pull weeds.
They can't force us at gunpoint, Marianne, to stay.
But I'm not a quitter, Ross. I'm not quitting. I'm telling you.
You're in for a long haul then, maybe.
So we have a motion Is there any more discussion?
What do you think?
Please reread the motion.
Okay, I think I'm back on. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, I'll read of the annual meeting of the members.
You just went off. Shoots. Did someone else write down what he said earlier? Because now I can't.
We
Do you
can't
have
hear
the
you.
motion, Lee?
Well, I didn't write it down. I'm recording it.
Shoots.
I'm tired.
Okay. Let's try this again. I move that because the date of the annual meeting of the members is in question and that matters surrounding the election are in question, that we not schedule an annual meeting or election until the courts have decided whether or not the bylaws were amended properly. That is the question. Lee, go ahead and call the vote.
Is it possible to
Kayola.
make an amendment to that?
Not now, since we've called the vote.
Payola,
Yes, I approve.
Jim,
I'd say yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Lee, yes. Phil,
No.
Mary Ann,
I'm gonna say no.
Ross,
Yes.
Okay, the motion has been approved. And then we'll go ahead and let Terry and Amanda know to try to expedite this and get this before the judge as soon as possible. So thank you, everyone, for being here this evening. And unless there's any more business concerning the election and the annual meeting,
I just have a question to do with the mailing of because that's what I did a little research on before tonight's meeting about the ballot and all that. Can we mail the ballot and the dues at the same mailing? I know there was a problem with that, or that we had to do it separate. Maybe Greg, no can
nor,
That's the way we always did it in the past.
together?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
But there was a separate envelope in the package to return the ballot.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Okay. If there's no further business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.